front of the room and get things started. And I'm very delighted to be able to have this honor today to introduce our speaker. And she's come a long way, braved a lot of conditions in the air yesterday, got here kind of late last night, and so she's ready to share her story and a piece of her life with you. And so I want to give you a little background. I'm Russell Teasley. I have directed the London trip for the last 7 or 8 years, and when we go to London, we try to focus in financial services, go where the big bucks are, right? And London's got the big bucks, and on a global basis, and part of that industry, a huge piece of that industry is insurance. And insurance represents a lot of wealth in the world. And sort of the ground zero of that industry is Lloyd's of London. And Lloyd's is an exchange located in downtown London, and we've been fortunate enough to visit Lloyd's for a number of years now. And we were introduced, I think our first or second year there, to Tangi Morgan. And she embraced our group. She made us feel at home. She hooked us in to the top of the organization there, and by virtue of that, we were hooked into the top of the industry, and we're very grateful for that. And so Tangi wants to share with you her story as a Georgia native, okay, who has made her life a story of personal growth, which started right here in your home state and has gone through the evolutions that I'm sure we would all love to experience, and landing on the top of one of the greatest industries in the world today. And so she's going to share that story with you, and she's proud of it. We're proud to know Tangi, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background. She was born in Augusta, Georgia. I'm sorry, born in Greenville. Excuse me. That was me that was born in Augusta. Moved to Augusta, grew up in Augusta. Thank you. And I was the flip side of that, so we have that story to share. But so anyway, she went to school in Tennessee and started to work in the oil industry, worked for Conoco, on the drill rigs, folks, Louisiana out into the Gulf. She saw the real story. Worked in that industry for a number of years, and then got her move into Chubb, which is a major insurance company in Atlanta, and there she went, okay? No holes barred for Tangi after that point. After moves from Atlanta into Charlotte, Philadelphia, New York, and then into AIG, which I'm sure if you never heard of AIG before 2008, you've heard of it since. And she moved with AIG to be located in London, heart of the industry, as I like to say, thereby poached by Lloyd's, and became a remarkable resource for Lloyd's of London. Since that time, she's been working for the last couple of years to help insurance companies become represented on the floor of Lloyd's, a very important role that she plays in moving the industry forward. So, Tangi, how about it? You ready to come and talk to this willing and ready group? Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? The mic's on. Thank you for that introduction, Professor Teasley. I'll be proper instead of Russell. But thank you, and I'm really, really excited to be here. As you've heard, I first became a friend of the university by virtue of my good friend, Barbara DeMarco Williams, whom we met, I won't say how many years ago, but we met after I had changed careers from petroleum and gone into insurance, and I started over again. I literally, after 6 years of working for Conoco, and yes, I went through a 6-month offshore training program where I learned the oil industry from ground up. So I've been out on the rig, stayed out there 7 days on, and you know, I got through all of that and was still standing. And I worked for Conoco for approximately 6 years. And then had a change of career, and where do? You go to insurance, okay? Yeah, all right. So I started over again in insurance with Chubb, and Chubb was very interested in me because I had the petroleum background. And Chubb insures, as well as a lot of insurance companies, they insure petroleum risk. So they were interested in me coming on board, and I was initially supposed to be an underwriter, underwriting the oil industry or petroleum risk. As it turned out, I ended up in another area, excess casualty, and you know, that changed the career, went a different way. But Barbara and I met in Atlanta, as I said, when I first started out, and we have remained friends over all the years, and she was the one, I think, that introduced me and told the folks here at the university about me being in London, and of course about me being at Lloyd's at that time. And as Professor Teasley said, I was really, really excited to meet with the students when you came. You know, I find that you're never as patriotic as when you're living outside of your country, okay? And at that point, when I went to Lloyd's, I had been in London for 6 years, managing a portfolio, a worldwide portfolio for AIG, where I traveled all over the world. I worked with companies such as Shell and Rio Tinto and all of the Fortune 500 companies that have global footprints. And this is, I want you to hear that, because those of you who think that insurance is boring, you know, it's just your auto insurance or your, you know, your home insurance. It's a lot more than that. As Russell says, insurance actually makes the world go round. Okay, if you think about it, you couldn't build buildings, you couldn't actually have new medicines produced, you couldn't have oil drilled, things of that nature, if there was not an insurance component there. So it really is the backbone of the economy. And so that's why when you heard that AIG went through all of the problems that they went through back in 2008, and why the U.S. government chose to bail them out, it was necessary not only for the U.S. economy, but also for the worldwide economy, because AIG had such a footprint. So I know I heard a lot of marketing majors here, I heard some accounting, I heard some management majors. You know, insurance is a wide open industry, and I have to take this time to say this because insurance is what has ultimately afforded me a very nice life. You know, I've traveled to 32 countries. I've been to every continent except one, Antarctica. That's on the bucket list. I've flown twice the speed of sound, 3 times on the British Airways supersonic jet Concorde. I've done a lot of things in this life, and a lot of it, the past almost 30 years, has been on the back of insurance. So if anyone tells you that insurance is boring, or you know what's this insurance all about, think again. Okay, so that's my public service announcement for insurance. Moving on, you know, how do I say this? Especially when I was at Lloyd's, we would have various clients come into Lloyd's, and you know, I would go to the meetings as a senior executive, and you know, obviously when I would walk in the room, you know, you say, oh yeah, you know, the Americans there, and first of all I say, oh wow, you're obviously not British, you know, your accent is funny, your accent is different. It's like, yeah, I'm American. Oh, and where are you from? And I said, oh, grew up in Augusta, Georgia. Really? And then it would always be, well, how did a girl from Augusta, Georgia get to Lloyd's of London? And I said, well, you know, I would be really kind of flippant about it. Oh, on a plane with a passport, you know, just like that, you know. And, you know, then it would, either they would get the, you know, kind of like the smart aleck joke, or they would go like, oh, really, you know, deadpan. But it became a kind of a running bet with the guys that work for me. And I do say guys because mostly, I'd say 80% of the people that work for me were guys, British. couple of Kiwis in there and Aussies. But they start making bets as to how many minutes do you think it's going to take before one of the Americans in the room asks her, you know, how did a girl from Augusta, Georgia get to Lloyd's of London, you know? And so, of course, you know, I had to, you know, be ribbed by that. But I started thinking seriously about, okay, Tangi, you know, it's not a big deal to you what you've done. You just kind of got on, you know, cracked on and did it. But what was it? You know, what were the components? What do you see, or what do you think actually was the driving force behind you doing the different things that you've done? I mean, you know, I've told you a couple of crazy things. Well, she went out on the oil rig, and then, you know, she went to London, and she's done all these things. And I look back, and I really start going through all the years. And I came up with 3 things, okay? And those 3 things are, number 1, confidence. And some of this you probably already heard, but it's my story, so work with me. It's confidence, relationships, okay? I know a lot of people say networking, but I say relationships. And I'll come back to why I say relationships versus networking. And then it's risk-taking, you know? Doing something that's maybe a bit unusual, or doing something that's different, you know, that has risk associated with it. Maybe I'll use the word, as I'm in insurance, risk-taking, but really stepping outside the box, you know, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And those 3 things, to me, have really made the difference in everything I've done. You know, there's a poem by Robert Frost, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact, it's called The Road Less Traveled. You know, I came to a fork in the road, and I chose the road less traveled, and that's made all the difference. And that is truly what's made the difference in my life, you know. I mean, growing up in Augusta, my mom was an educator, was a teacher. My father was a businessman, contractor. I, you know, lived a very, very nice middle-class life, you know. I mean, I was good in school. I graduated, I went to college. And, you know, when I look back, I was a debutante. I look back on my debutante, you know, write-up or biography, and I said, oh, I want to graduate from, you know, college, and I want to work for a major corporation in Atlanta, Georgia. That was my goal. I wanted to graduate from college, and I was going to work for a major corporation in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was going to get my master's, you know, my 4th year, because I finished college in 3 years, but I was going to get my master's on the 4th year. That was what I was going to do, okay? Now think about what I just said. So when I was sitting in your shoes, I'm not going to say how many years ago, okay? But when I was sitting in your shoes, that was my goal, and it was pretty good. You know, it was pretty reasonable, right? But think about that goal versus what I've just described to you, or what Russell has just told you about me. It's amazing, right? You know. If anyone had told me that ultimately Tangi, from Tennessee State University, over a lot of moves, okay, within the U.S., approximately 8 moves in the U.S. altogether between Conoco and my insurance career, and then moving off to London. And not only moving to London, but I have a British citizenship also. So I have dual citizenship status. You know, so I travel with 2 passports. When I leave the U.S., you know, I leave on my U.S. passport. When I enter the U.K., I enter on my U.K. passport. I never leave or come back from either one. I don't know how that works. And I'm afraid that one day, when I go through somewhere in customs, they're going to stop me. I don't know, but I'm doing it right, apparently, to what they say. But my point is, you know, if anyone had told me that I would have 2 citizenships, that I would become the first African-American ever hired in the Corporation of Lloyd's in 325 years, you know, and be responsible for 14 billion with a B, British pounds worth of written premium, which is about 21 billion US dollars of written premium, looking after 42 syndicates that operate within the Lloyd's market. And further, Also having a vote on every syndicate that operates in that market. So that's like a 25 billion pound market, 27 billion now. So that's over 40, almost 45, almost $50 billion worth of business. It really, even me sitting here saying that, it really kind of takes me back because, wow, you know. And I'm not saying that to brag, you know, I'm just stating a fact, okay? So just like I did that, it's in all of you to do that, you know, or do something that you maybe have thought about doing and said, you know, well, maybe I'd like to do this. I wonder how did they get into that role, or, you know. It's usually really about doing, it's really about the three things that I mentioned at first. It's about confidence. It's about having just a belief in yourself, right? That you've got the wherewithal, you've got the qualities, you're just as good as anyone else, okay? It's all about having that self-belief. And for me, you know, it came from my parents and my grandparents. I mean, as I said, you know, my mom was a teacher, my father was a businessman, my grandparents. You know, I had some really, really strong role models within my family. However, you know, everyone might not necessarily have that same type of situation. But it doesn't matter. You know, find a professor, find a teacher, find someone whom is positive, who is doing some positive things and can really be a, if you will, a mentor to you, okay? So wherever you find that, you know, if it's your minister, you know, if it's, like I said, your teacher, or other folks in business, you know, people that are doing something that you might aspire to do. Just look for that positive influence and look to be around people that don't, you know, how do you put it, that don't drag you down and, you know, make you feel like, oh man, why do you want to do that? Or why, you know, don't really deal with that, because if you do, you begin to start to limit yourself and it does you a disservice. The other thing is around relationships. And as I said, a lot of people talk about networking, and networking is great, you know. But I always think back, to me, networking, the term, just seems so clinical. I had this friend, she was in our Bermuda office, and her big thing was every time she would go to industry cocktails or, you know, industry events, she would go, and her goal was basically to get, to see how many business cards she could get. You know, and you know, she would come back to the office the next day and she's like, oh, I got 75 business cards. Oh, you know, that meant, meaning, you know, that she had actually, you know, shook the hand or, you know, had some sort of exchange with someone there. And yeah, so be it, you know, great. But, you know, what did you do with those cards, right? Were you really about understanding who that person was, or understanding what kind of business, you know, deals you could do, or was it all about just getting, you know, the most cards out of the cocktail? I say relationships. Relationships are sustainable. Okay, I have met people, as I said, Barbara, met her years ago. We've retained the friendship over the years, and it's because of her that I'm standing in front of you, you know? And actually, I've never told you this, but you know, the time I spent in the claims area with you, those 2 weeks, I go back to some of those pointers that you gave me when I'm looking at deals. So, you know, you never know who might influence you. But my whole point is, you know, relationships, when you meet people, okay, get to learn a little bit about them. I'm not saying that you've got to know their whole life story, but have more of a conversation or connection, right, with the person that you're meeting. Show some interest in them. And it's not being superficial. You never really know what that person may go on to do, who that person knows. I'll give you an example. We talk about my role at Lloyd's, And we're focusing on that role. I mean, if we had more time, we could talk some about the other ones. But people would ask, well, you know, how did you really get that role in Lloyd's? You know, I know you were in London for 6 years, and I know that you were, you know, working for AIG. You were doing deals worldwide, but how did they, you know, how did they choose you, right? And honestly, the headhunter that Lloyd's had recruited, or executive recruiter as they call him, he contacted me a couple of times, and my PA kept saying, Tangi, there's this guy that keeps calling you, and he wants you to give him a call back. And you know, I looked down, I was like, I don't know who that is. You know, who is he? And then someone said, well, I think he's a you know, recruiter or whatever. I was like, oh wow, okay. So finally, this guy was persistent enough, and he calls me, and he said, your name has been given to me to contact Lloyd's is interested in talking to you about a position that Rolf Toller is creating. Now, Rolf Toller was, you know, he was the founding director of the Franchise Performance Directorate. So all of what you hear about Lloyd's now and how it's got this great rating, and as Russell said, it is really the pinnacle of global insurance. It was almost at the brink. After asbestos, this predates you guys, but they were in financial straits, dire straits, okay? And the Bank of England and the financial regulator came in, and they started to impose different rules and criteria on Lloyd's. And so Rolf Toller, whom is a gentleman that hired me, was the person that actually set the infrastructure in Lloyd's, okay? And he's credited, they're saying that he should be up for a knighthood, that the Queen should actually knight him for what he did with Lloyd's during his tenure there. But Rolf was interested in talking to me. And I said, really? He said, I've never worked in the Lloyd's market. I've never worked for Lloyd's Syndicate. You know, I'm a specialist, okay? Lloyd's basically writes property, marine, aviation insurance. They do write some casualty business, which was my specialty, but you know, I wasn't a natural choice, right? And not to mention I'm American, I'm a woman, you know, Lloyd's did not allow women to even come into and broke in the building until the 1970s. Women were only allowed to wear trouser suits in the last 20 years in Lloyd's. And when you go in Lloyd's now, you will be hard-pressed to find anyone that is in, shall we say, loud attire. Am I correct? Okay, fine. So it is very much the pinnacle of Britishness, okay? But, you know, as I started meeting with him, because I said, really? I said, well, are you sure? And I wondered, I said, well, how did you get my name? How did I come up on a list, you know? And so when I talked to Rolf, he said, well, Tangi, number one, you know, I wanted to shake up the old boys. Now, this is a German. This is a 65-year-old German, okay, that is talking to me like, he said, well, I wanted to shake up Lloyd's. And he said, actually, I also wanted to get someone to come in that was not tainted by Lloyd's, someone that had a different view, okay? Because we're very, very steeped in history and very steeped in what we do. But you know, we realize that you know we've got to continue to grow with the market. And so you know, your work, basically what I found out, you know, is what I'm trying to say is the work that I had done the years that I was in London. Okay, I have been noticed. Okay, all the work that I have been doing. That is how I came upon and obviously accepted such a big role within Lloyd's, okay? And so let that be maybe, you know, just a story to think about. To my point, the work that I had done, the people that I had met, relationships that I had, you know, developed in London over the years, don't think that Lloyd's just called me because my name came up on a list. They vetted me before they got me. Okay, and they made an offer that was, you know, I was not going to not take it, okay? You know, I'll leave it at that, okay? All right? And it's not all about money, but, you know, I said to myself, look, I debated, right? Because this is the risk-taking coming in, right? Okay, I'm over in London. I'm a senior vice president at AIG. I have a very nice life. I'm an expat. I can do this job with my eyes closed, basically, okay? AIG has just paid 2 more years on my flat in Kensington, and so why would I look to change anything? Okay, but then I said, well, wait a minute, Lloyd's of London, you know, this is the Lloyd's, okay, and they want me, and they, now, even though there was going to be a large learning curve, because think about it, what did I tell you guys? I was a specialist in casualty. Lloyd's didn't write very much casualty, right? Lloyd's wrote property, marine, and aviation. But I was going to be over all of these lines of business. So that meant there was going to be a heck of a learning curve, and not to mention the fact that because I was going to be looking after half the market, and I was going to be the American in the room and all that other stuff in the room, I had to get myself together. So it was a risk. Okay, it was a risk that I wanted to take. And I thought about it at the end of the day, the deciding decision was, if Lloyd's of London is willing to take a chance on Tangi Morgan, Augusta, Georgia, Tennessee State University, all the stuff that goes behind it, if they're willing to take a chance on me and put money to the paper and all this kind of stuff, why wouldn't I take a chance on myself? You know, because the worst thing that could happen is that, okay, fine, well, you know, make a couple of bob and, you know, hey, I got Lloyd's on my background, you know, Lloyd's on my CV. I'll move off to the next role. So to me, that was my big risk. If you ask me, the biggest risk that I've ever taken in my career, it was stepping out of my comfort zone at that point, which was AIG in London and all the comforts that I had and all the security that I had, to go off. And not only, by the way, I went to work as a local citizen, you know, meaning that I was no longer under U.S. benefits and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I literally took full stock and barrel, you know, so that is one of the reasons, too, why I took the British citizenship. So I do have dual citizenship status. I did not renounce my U.S. citizenship, but I did pledge allegiance to the Queen. And so, you know, I said, look, if I'm going to be working, you know, as a local citizen, I might as well get all the benefits as a local citizen. But that, you know, that's my risk. Okay, so if you tie in what I said about risk, that's a big risk that I took. I learned a heck of a lot, you know, in that role. Even after being a senior vice president at AIG and all the things that I did, there was a whole area of the business that I still had, you know, was still there for me to learn. So it was also a learning experience for me, even at that point in my career. So the other thing about that is, you know, take risk, you know, always continue to learn, always continue to look at ways that you can expand your, you know, expand your horizon in the jobs that you're in. 3 things that come to mind that I want to also say. So I told you about confidence, relationships, and risk-taking. Once you get your job, whatever that job is, be it in insurance, be it in, you know, marketing or accounting or whatever job that is that you get, that you have right now, you know, think about these things. Number one is look for a stretch role. Look for something that is going on in the organization. If there's a project, or you know, folks are asked to volunteer to you know, help with you know, a project or whatever new initiative is going on. Look to step up. You know, step up. And, you know, take on the challenge of doing something a little bit more than your actual job, you know, because that shows that you're willing, right? That shows that you've got some ambition, okay? Just don't be the one that comes in 9 to 5, yeah, okay, I got my paycheck and go, because you're not going to be happy, okay? You're probably not going to really get the kind of appraisals or promotions or raises, you know, that you might expect. So really look to step up. Also look to stay close to a P&L, profit and loss, you know, your accounting folks in here. Because, you know, when you when you're in roles that affect the bottom line of a company, okay, when it comes time to being laid off, downsized, all these kind of things, you know, if you can show that your actions or your duties, your job affects the bottom line of a company, especially in this economy, you know, the way we're going, it's still a very soft economy worldwide. That is some security, okay? When you can directly show what you're doing affects the bottom line of a company. That's key. And I will use networking in this regard. Networking to meet as many people in your organization. If there are cocktails, if there are even social events, things of that nature that you know that other colleagues or maybe some of your senior management, your management are going to be at, try to go to those things and don't just stand in the corner and hang out with your buds that are there, okay? Go over and say, hello, Mr. CEO, how are you? I'm, you know, Tangi Morgan. Nice to meet you. I work in the mailroom. Hey, but one day I might want to be you, okay? You know, you know, how many people do that, right? I mean, you know, at least it gives you some exposure to that person. Being a little facetious, but I think you guys follow what I'm saying. You know, just don't go to events. If you get an opportunity to come out like today, thank you all for coming. I know you all are in the middle of midterms and, you know, the weather has kind of been a problem and all the spring break, everything's coming on. But, you know, just the fact that you came and took some time to come today says a lot, you know. So any opportunity that you have to really, you know, get out in front and meet people in your, you know, in your particular discipline, do that, because you never know how that could come around and help you. One thing that I did forget to do, I kind of got off. How many people? I'm on a one-woman mission in the U.S. to get as many people to have passports as they can. How many people in this room have passports by the show of hands? I am impressed. Wow. Okay. Good. Okay. Now, second question. How many people have actually used those passports, got stamps in them? All right. Yeah, this is great. This is great. I recently spoke at the University of North Texas in November, and you guys have got them. I mean, you know, you would think that, yeah, but this is really, really great. And how many of you, I know a few ladies are here, how many are going to London? You're going. Great. You know, I was saying I was initially thought that I might be in London during the time that you guys were there. And I was going to try to surprise, you know, the group and pop up, you know, and give you a Tangi tour of Lloyd's. But it didn't work out. I needed to go back to London in February, so I was there most of February. But I'm very excited to see that, you know, I'd say the majority of the people in this room, you guys have got the passports. Because the other way that I could say you get to Lloyd's of London is with a passport, right? Okay, so, you know, fine, you know. I will challenge the ones of you in the room that do not have a passport, okay? Go to your local post office, all right, and fill out the form and get your passports, okay? If anything, it's, you know, a great form of ID, okay? And that is the one thing, no, you can't get, you know, you can't do it on your smartphone. You can't, okay? You got to take the time out to go get your picture taken and, you know, get the passport. But it's really good to have the passport because think about it. You know, remember when I was telling you I was sitting at Tennessee State University and I was saying I was going to graduate, work for a major corporation in Atlanta, Georgia. At that particular point in time, I had not traveled outside the U.S. Well, I take that back. I had gone to the senior girls trip was to Nassau, whatever. Okay, so I had gone to the Bahamas. I traveled in the U.S., but I had not traveled internationally. But look at where I went. You know, look at how my story evolved. So the point is now, you know, with air travel and, you know, companies global and all of these things, you never know when you might get an opportunity to go abroad. And what are you going to say? Oh, man, I don't even have a passport yet. No. Okay, so get your passport. The ones of you that, that's the word according to Tangi, okay? The ones of you that do have your passports and have used them, great for you, okay? And, you know, I'm thinking that probably wherever you went, you know, outside the country, hopefully you got a different perspective. You know, you kind of observed the folks there and how they dressed and how they talked and what they ate and, you know, different things like that, just to get a different perspective. You know, the U.S. is huge, yes, and there's a lot of places and different things to do in the U.S., but I firmly believe that, and I have seen it in people that have traveled internationally for the first time. Of course, there are usual complaints about different things, because no, it's not America. But you know, just the fact that you've gone through customs, just the fact that you've had to deal with other currencies and things of that nature, it really changes your perspective, you know. And you know, who knows? Maybe you might get the bug like somebody like me and decide that you want to, you know, hang out over there for a while. That, you know, honestly, is really my story. There are a lot of different things, I guess, that I could say, but I felt that, because I thought long and hard about what I want to talk to you guys about, but this was a little different for me because it is here in Georgia, you know, and being a person that grew up in Georgia and, you know, having all these different experiences, I wanted to make it a little more personal, you know, and just let you guys know, hey, the sky's the limit, you know, and that's just not something that's a cliche. It's really the truth. And, you know, opportunities are there for you. Sometimes it may seem like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get to, you know, go to London, or how am I going to get to go to France or whatever? You know, just instead of maybe, I don't know, you know, instead of getting your new Mac computer or something like that, maybe you could, you know, redirect those funds to, you know, take a trip to China or somewhere. I don't know, you know. Just look at things a little bit differently and expand your horizons. The last thing, before I take some questions, if we have any time, because I know I've run over probably, but I have to make a public service announcement, like I said, for insurance, okay? For all of us. Now, I've already told you that every major in this room, there's a potential for you to get a job in insurance, okay? All right, so think about that. But the other thing is that according to, I think it was the Insurance Outlook Association, but there was an insurance industry, I don't have the note in front of me now, they performed a survey late last year, and by the year 2020, okay, they estimate that over the insurance sector, okay, so this will be insurance brokers, underwriters, actuaries, claims people, whatever, they estimate that there will be 400,000 new jobs created in the insurance sector, okay, insurance industry. So when you're looking at careers and you're looking at, you know, where does that accounting major take me? Where does that marketing major take me? Where does that management major take me? It may take you to insurance. It may take you, you know, down that road. And I would really encourage people to look at insurance. Usually when people say, well, what business are you in? You say insurance. Somebody said that's the quickest way to clear the room. But, you know, I hope that I've given you a little bit of insight to say that it's a bit more exciting than that. I'm a living witness to tell you, you know, to prove that to you. So with that, I would like to hear from you guys. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So in your industry, what do you think is the best entry point for the pathway to success? Is it a broker, or what do you think?
You know, actually, that's an interesting question. It's hard to say which one is exactly the right route to go. I mean, back when I started in insurance, most companies at that time had training programs, okay? And they would take you in just like Chubb did, Aetna, several of them, and you would go through a training program of anywhere from 6 months to a year, you know? And that was a big way that companies recruited, you know, and you got into the business that way. Now, a lot of it, and by the way, that same report that I mentioned that said 400,000 new jobs, when they surveyed those particular companies, they indicated that when they look to hire folks for entry-level positions, they first looked at their internship pool. Okay, so I guess the takeaway from that is, and maybe this answers your question, is if you can try to get get into an internship program. And I know that some of them are paid, some of them are unpaid. They're not, which might be a challenge, but that is a way, if an internship program comes up while you're in school. I know in the UK, companies such as Lloyd's, Catlin, many of the major insurance companies, the company side, okay, they had internship programs. And actually, we would take in, I had 3 students from Oxford who came in and worked over the summer months in my team, okay? And then, of course, once they graduated, you knew them, and there was some opportunity there for them to come on board. Also, you might look for companies that have graduate schemes now, which is the off-take of the old, I guess you'd say, coming in training program. A lot of companies are doing that. At Lloyd's, we had that. So, in fact, 2 of the students that had been internships with me, once they graduated, they were accepted into the Lloyd's graduate program. And that was an 18-month program where they sit 6 months in the corporation, 6 months out in the Lloyd's market, and then 6 months either with a broker or back in Lloyd's. So I would say to look for internships, be it on the carrier side, be it on the broker side, whatever's available. The point is, get in, okay? However that, if it's someone you need to call up, someone you met at one of these seminars that's working in the business, call them up. This is where the relationship goes on. Don't just come to an event where you've got industry professionals there and just sit and talk to your other students, okay? Go over and talk to the people that can actually, perhaps help you out and, get you into their company. So that's, hopefully I answered your question. Anybody else? I know we're getting, yes. Oh, yeah.
Hold on a second.
What-
Let me
what-
let her repeat that.
Okay. I knew that was going to come up. I didn't say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, wow. It's really loud. Okay, I'm curious to know what you studied in college.
Right. I was a business management major. So business management people in here. Yeah, I was a business management major. Once again, as I said, I was going to work for a major corporation in Atlanta, Georgia in management, business management. But as it turned out, Conoco had come to Tennessee State University, and they were interviewing engineering majors and they were interviewing business majors. Okay, so you could be management, marketing. And the thing was, obviously I wasn't an engineer, but they were interested in hiring management majors because the side-by-side of engineering were who's going to do the financial accounting, who's going to do the authority for expenditures for the equipment, all the business side of it. So I worked hand in hand with engineering. So the 6-month offshore training program that I went through was for me to learn the terminology and the insurance industry, the petroleum industry, and I actually have 500 hours with the American Petroleum Institute. I was going to get an associate degree in petroleum engineering had I stayed with Conoco, okay? But I came from a business background, and was trained effectively to do that role. So, the business major has a lot of scope. It really does. So, it's a good degree. I say that as a business major. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
You suggested that each student create their own university as they move forward. How important is that?
Each student create their own university.
Create their own university, meaning read books,
Yes.
read the Wall Street.
Yes. That very, very, very good. Yes. You have to be up and aware of what's going on around you. Okay. I know I'm in a university and it's sacrilege, but learning the basics, learning the theory behind, you know, why you do this, the business ethics and economy and all of the things that go on, and things that you'll learn from a academic perspective, that's all great. That is all foundation, okay, for you to move forward. But what actually makes you marketable and what makes you interesting and what gives you an edge when you start talking to people about jobs is your knowledge and understanding of what's going on around you, what's current, okay? You know, where is the economy going? You know, what are the geopolitical concerns about being in India or being in the Middle East now if you're growing a global platform, okay? What about cyber liability? Okay, all of us know about Target and all of us know about Home Depot. They've been hacked. But what does that really mean? Okay, yeah, they've been hacked. Yeah, my you know, debit card has been compromised. But what is the genesis of that? Okay, what are the implications for business? All right, for the economy. You know, just really becoming very worldly and understanding what's going on around you. That gives you the edge. You know, if I'm talking to somebody to hire them and they want to come in to work for me in Lloyd's and they are very good technically, and I know that they can run the models and they can, you know, do the deals and all this, but if they don't have any scope around them, you know, if that's all that they can tell me, if they don't have a personality, if they don't know the implications of, well, you know what, if XYZ syndicate actually has a huge loss, okay, they could potentially represent 30% of the income at Lloyd's that may be, you know, eaten up because they've not really been looking at their risk appropriately, okay? So understanding the bigger picture is very important, definitely. You cannot live in a silo. Yes, sir. You go.
Howdy, Tanja.
Hello,
Tangi, excuse
Tangi.
me. I'm Adam Baker, the president of the Student Investment Club.
Okay.
I was wondering if you personally know Credit Suisse CEO Tijan Heim?
No, I don't, but I know who he is.
Okay, I thought maybe y'all might have worked at AIG together or something.
No, but
Okay.
did not. I worked, it's interesting. I was in London with AIG and managed the Star Excess book of business, which actually was a worldwide portfolio. And I would travel around various places, and I actually might have come across him at some point in time, but I cannot say that I know him personally, no.
Okay.
Yes.
I have another question also about LinkedIn. Is it a valuable tool for building relationships and
About?
networking? LinkedIn?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I would. You know, as a person that really is not not a big techie, if you will, but I really came across LinkedIn and started using it probably about 3-4 years ago, and it does have a lot of value. Okay, but the thing about LinkedIn is, you know, they say, oh, well, you need to have at least 500 connections for it to be of value, and you know, you can, you know, link in or you can connect with various people and get this big network. That's true, but what I'd say is when you go to LinkedIn, and yes, I would encourage everyone, because I'm finding that a lot of headhunters and companies, they do look at LinkedIn now to see what's there. So you as students, I would encourage you to, yes, probably sign up for LinkedIn and have a LinkedIn page. Have a picture there. Have a professional picture there. Okay, I don't want to see you out hanging out at the frat party, you know, okay? All right, have a professional picture there. And, you know, give a little bit of background about what you're doing. Even if you're still in school, but if you've had some, you know, summer jobs or some internships and things of that nature, it would be good to start your CV, start your little story, all right? Because it also, if you've got, you know, a human resources department or someone that's looking at LinkedIn, they can see that, okay, well, maybe you know, Mary might still be in school, but Mary's actually over the past from high school all the way through her second year of university, she's been volunteering or she's been working in this business or, you know, I mean, it tells a story, right? It gives you a little something different to tell about yourself other than, oh, I'm a student at University of, you know, North Georgia and I'm working on a master, you know, business degree. Well, that's great, but how many other people are doing that? But if you take a little bit of extra time and, you know, make it a little more personal, tell a little bit more of your story, you might get that second look, okay? But on LinkedIn, what I would suggest is when you link with people, especially you guys that are, you know, in school and looking to start your careers in the next few years, instead of just linking in, say, you know, hi, I'm, you know, Tangi Morgan, going to be graduating from University of North Georgia in, you know, 2016. I'm a management major. Would love to, you know, maybe hear more about your company or, you know, making it personal instead of just linking in with someone. Put a little bit of, just a sentence or two behind that, okay? Because what I find is a lot of people want to link in with me, but it's just the, hey, want to link in with you, nice. And I go, you know, I start not accepting because I want to know, why do you want to link in with me? Okay, so tidbit, just put a little bit more effort to it, okay, and use it. It can work for you, but just, you know, you've got to work it too. Okay, so yeah, you can't get around not being on LinkedIn right now.
So I want to thank, on behalf of
Thank
the Mike
you all.
Cottrell College of
Yeah.
Business and our faculty and
Yes.
staff and students, I want to thank Ms. Morgan
Thank
for
you.
taking the time. I don't know if you guys know, but it is such an honor to have someone like Ms. Morgan come down here. She's on her own dime. She is here to talk to you guys, tell her story. But you know, one of the things I want to say is you add so much credibility to what we do. And I hope you guys will listen to all of the things about telling your story, about being genuine, about being connected, about staying on top of what's going on in the world. And it's all kind of overwhelming to do, but these are the things that differentiate you. These are the things that will allow you to be successful in North Georgia or in Indonesia or any place you want to be. So help me in thanking her, because she and others help us to do exactly what we're here to do, and that is to build strong graduates, and then we all work together to build strong communities. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
It's a very small